Hello everybody, Melanie here. Welcome back to the channel. Before I start the video, just a friendly reminder to check out my other two channels if you're getting a bit sick of videos on BPD and dysfunctional relationships. They are more uplifting. The channels are in the video description. Remember who you are and Memories of Arcadia. Would love for your support on both channels. All right, on to the video. There's so much to say about trauma bonding, and this video is just going to cover a fraction of it. And let's start off with two different reasons why people trauma bond. On the one hand, it's two people who are bonded through their shared trauma in the past. And if you're wanting to be seen, if you want to be accepted for who you are, it can be hard to reveal yourself to someone who hasn't had a shared similar experience to you. And on the other hand, a trauma bond can also refer to when you're going through cycles of being elevated, when the relationship is going really well, it's intense, it's really exciting, and then it's followed by cycles of devaluation, of being mistreated. Trauma bonds that keep two people in a relationship occur between codependent people. These people are looking to the other for them to self-regulate. They are looking to the other to be validated, to be seen. So if you want to picture what two codependent people look like, it's like this: two people leaning on each other. It's don't move, otherwise I'll fall. And so if someone leaves, the other one's world collapses, and then it's hard to get this person out of your head. It's easy to become addicted to thinking about them. The videos that I've made on this channel about being addicted to your ex, finding it hard to let go, this often does happen in people who are codependent and have been relying on the other person to give them something that they need, that they are unable to give to themselves. Some of the earliest wounds that we experience as children is that regarding abandonment and rejection and not being seen, not being validated. The earliest childhood wounds can be so impactful, so terrifying, and have such a big impact on your psyche that if these aren't addressed within yourself, it means that you'll be looking to other people to give you that corrective emotional experience. If you've been rejected in the past by a family member, if you've been abandoned and you're still looking to be seen, and what I mean by seen is not just physically seen, but actually all of you seen, all of you accepted. If we have emotionally unavailable parents, for example, perhaps they were depressed, and a parent who is depressed isn't available for their kid, and the children needs their parents to mirror back to them who they are. We realize ourselves, we get to know ourselves through the eyes of another growing up. So if we have a parent who is unable to do that, be it through mental health issues, be it through illness. Severe illness means a parent is physically incapable sometimes of being able to mirror back to the child their greatness, their grandiosity. We need a parent to do this. Sometimes parents are only responsive to the child when the child is being naughty or the child's made mistakes, and the parent only responds to that. And yet when the child is being good, when the child needs his or her grandiosity mirrored back to her, this is ignored by the parent. And so the child is craving, and the craving doesn't go, wanting to be seen in his or her goodness, wanting to be accepted for fully who they are. And any unaddressed needs like this will stay with you when you grow up. So the child grows up into an adult and meets another adult who has similar experiences in the past. This person too was not seen and is looking for that positive mirror to be seen as good, to be accepted as who they are. And so it's easy to bond with someone like this. Finally, I can be seen. Finally, I can be accepted and be seen as good. I can be validated, and I can finally have this positive mirror that I did not get from my family growing up. And this is a reason why these relationships become so intense, when two people who are just yearning to be accepted and to be fully seen are providing it for each other. They are finally getting that thing that they haven't gotten, and it becomes addictive. And the two people are relying on each other to give it to each other. And so I'm doing the triangle again. Two people leaning on each other. Don't move, otherwise I'll fall down. And when it's great, it feels really great. But the problem is that during the intensity, there are no healthy boundaries. It becomes an enmeshed relationship. You spend so much time with the other, and it's hard to know where one person starts and the other person finishes. There are no boundaries here. And it becomes very traumatizing when it breaks. So for a partner, for example, who has BPD, they want this intimacy. They are looking to be seen and validated. And yet alongside this is this fear of enmeshment. They don't want to lose themselves. Often they don't really know who they are. And so although they're having a great time, there's this panic, this fear of, hang on, I need to actually individuate and find out who I am. And resentment can kick in. Resentment towards having it too intense. And so they can often pull away. And often this is experienced through devaluation, taking it out on the other person. For the other person, this can be very traumatizing. And this is actually how the trauma bond solidifies. When you go through cycles of the intensity and the elevation and everything is good, and then being devalued and being blamed and being punished and the other person pulling away, and then perhaps the other person changes their mind and comes back. For some people, it just goes from evaluation, devaluation, and discard. But for some others, the cycle keeps happening. Like they'll distance themselves and they'll come back into the relationship because they too are bonded. They too are seeking within you what they are struggling to find within themselves. And then they react to the engulfment, the enmeshment. They don't like it, but then they miss it and then they don't like it. And so it can go back and forth. So this creates the addiction, this creates the emotional Stockholm syndrome of not being able to leave this relationship, the trauma bond. This helps to solidify the trauma bond and keep you addicted, keep you confused, keep you very worn out and waiting for him or her to come back, waiting for it to go back to the good times. But after time and time and time again, it doesn't really get back to how it used to be. Trust issues come up for both people. Can you trust that this person's going to hurt you again? Can you trust that you're not going to be engulfed again? And so it's very traumatizing when the final split does happen. And the person who was looking to the other to be seen, to be validated, now feels terrible, worse than they've ever felt before, because this is a reenactment of the original wound of being abandoned, of being rejected. And this is a core fear that every single child fears. This is what keeps us safe. This is an animal pack instinct. If we are rejected or abandoned, we are out of the pack and we are less likely to survive. We are pack animals, us humans. We need others to survive, especially as children. We're not like snakes, where snakes just give birth and then leave you to it. And you have to fend from yourself from like minute one. No, we are mammals who need our parents to keep us safe. And if you have been unfortunate to have experienced abandonment and rejection from a very early age, then it's likely then that these fears are still within you. And if you aren't aware of what's going on, if you're not conscious of this, you will find yourself finding yourself repeatedly in relationships which are codependent, and often they will be with people who are personality disordered or very traumatized, similar story to you. And this often means a dysfunctional relationship, which can create even more wounding. You may find temporary respite at the beginning when it's really good, but then when it crumbles, when it just gets really bad and becomes very dysfunctional, it can leave you feeling worse for wear. And eventually, time and time again, this will just ruin you. So how do you resolve this? It's to look within yourself, to give yourself the validation that you're looking for in another person, to see yourself rather than looking for someone else to validate you and to see you, to learn to see yourself without relying on someone else to see you. And people who will respond to this video, people who need to hear this video, are generally people who have very little self-worth, very low self-esteem. And then it's easy to project your inner gold onto others. For someone who is personality disordered, this is an excellent supply source. So if you meet someone and you think they're the best thing since sliced bread, and then you devote your life to this person and you just don't have any needs, you do whatever this person says, to the other person, this can be off-putting, or it can actually be wonderful. And for the person who it's wonderful for is someone who is looking for a supply source, someone who they themselves have a very low sense of self-worth, and then there's you elevating them, saying, you're amazing, I want to do everything for you, I have no life, my life is dedicated to you. It becomes too much after a while. So if you can relate to this, if you tend to prioritize the needs of others over yourself, if you have very low sense of self-worth, it's not going to help you in future relationships. If you are looking to build up your self-esteem, if you are looking to improve on your self-worth through another. Don't get me wrong, relationships can help, but you need to find it within yourself first. Otherwise, it is way too much for the other person to experience. It all comes back to you and learning to rebuild the relationship with yourself, to learn to see yourself when no one else has in the past. If you have a harsh inner critic, which is telling you that you need to be perfect, that's telling you off for things that you've done, that refuses to see you as a good person, you need to work with this. You need to be implementing a daily, maybe even hourly strategy in which you can catch yourself when you are self-deprecating, catch yourself and challenge these thoughts. It's rewriting your inner script. It's healing the superego. You need to do this, not other people. You need to do this. It's quite simple. You just catch yourself when you're putting yourself down and challenge these thoughts. It's by getting control over your mind, self-mastery, that is key to your own liberation. And if and when personality disordered people do come into your life, you are better able to see it and to walk away from it, to assert your boundaries and to say no. You heal the trauma bond by healing it yourself, not through another person. And the first step towards doing this is awareness, realizing that you're doing this, maybe having a look into the past and grieving what happened, and rebuilding a better relationship with your inner child and saying, I'm going to give to you now, little person, what mum and dad didn't give to you. I'm not going to look to another person. I'm going to give it to you right now. What is it that your inner child needs? What are his or her needs? And meet them. Make it a point to meet them. Because otherwise, if you ignore your inner child's needs, you may find that you're in a battle between id and superego. So id is the pleasure principle that all children run on, and the superego is the moral principle of what's right and what's wrong, do's and don'ts. And for a lot of people, there are odds with these two conflicting forces. Learning to love yourself, to validate yourself, to give yourself a pat on the back, to celebrate your achievements and your successes, no matter how small they may be. This is a way to meet your inner child's needs. To learn how to play, as well as having a better relationship with responsibility. To work on perfectionism. Oh, this is a big one. People often who came from a critical family, who have very low self-esteem, want to be perfect because they think that if I'm perfect, then I will be in relationship, then I'll be accepted for who I am. We are growing until the day we die. Maybe not physically, but psychologically, we are becoming wiser. We have an opportunity for growth every day. If we are meant to be perfect, then that's it. We've already achieved perfection. There is no room for growth. So then what then? So you see what I mean? It's impossible to be perfect. The strive for perfection will just make you feel worse. Accept your humanness, and humanness is to make mistakes and to not beat yourself up about it, but instead be willing to pick yourself up and keep trying. And keep trying, to realize that others don't want you to be perfect. At least mentally healthy people don't anyway. So I highly recommend a practice of meditation and mindfulness, or at least sitting with your thoughts and being aware of how you talk to yourself, and be willing to change that. And if you're scared that you won't be accepted for who you are because of your imperfections, Mate, everyone has imperfections, like everyone does. So really it all comes down to loving yourself and understanding what is love exactly. Thinking about this codependent relationship that you're in. Is it love or is it attachment? Is it true love or is it addiction? In my opinion, it all comes down to will and love. Will as in your willingness to sit with yourself and work with your thoughts, work with changing how you talk to yourself. It requires willingness to sit down and learn meditation or to practice mindfulness. And we're not going to get anywhere in life if we don't have a sense of will. And for many people, many people, it requires sharpening, oh so much. And love. Understanding what love is. Is this relationship true love or is this addiction? Is this just attachment? Attachment to matter is a force to be reckoned with. I'd love to hear your feedback, and got any questions, got any comments? If you are interested in counselling with me, if you can relate to what I'm talking about and you need some help, I'd love to hear from you. My email address is in the video description. All right, I'll leave it there. Bye for now.